Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to Ed Explorer. In this episode, I will be looking at debts crush Ghana is turning volatile. Ghana, one of Africa's most democratic and fastest growing states, has been backsliding into turmoil caused by its external debts and the rising cost of living in the country of Ghana. I will look into a few things here in this episode. First, I will look at Ghana's high growth has been overloaded and also overdependent on external financing. The second thing will be the explosion of debts in the 2020 disrupted the positive economic trajectory in the country of Ghana. And lastly, I will look at its democracy is tested as anti-graft and also cost of living protests are spreading in the country of Ghana. I will encourage you to watch this video to the end for clarity and better understanding. So without any more delay, let's just dive straight into it. With a stable and functioning democracy in place since the 1990s and record high economic growth rates in 2000s, Ghana is often cited as an example of political and economic success. However, amidst the risk of debt default only prevented by an International Monetary Fund IMF loan, with the national currency amongst region's worst performer and inflation spiking to 40%, angry population protests have begun. While Ghana has faced situations of unsustainable debt before, in its 17 times since independence that the country has sought IMF relief, there is a strong tradition of civic activism and mobilization among students and also unions. This current wave of protest may signal a more profound malaise for which there is no easy way out and cure for the country of Ghana. If you look at the vicious circle that Ghana finds itself at the moment, in the late 2010s, Ghana was a rising star despite shock caused by commodity crash. One of the Africa's lion, it was among the world's fastest growing countries in 2019. Its economy was diversifying and income levels were growing while poverty decreased. Undoubtedly, the roots of Ghana's economic crisis today precede 2020 as cyclical shocks exposing dependency on cocoa and gold export and also on external financing. But more recently, the Ghanaian economy fell victim to the cost of dramatic measures imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic. As its other countries around the world, public debt was ballooned, reaching unsustainable levels. That, combined with anemic growth, inflation and unemployment, is eating into gains made during the previous period. Ghana was forced to seek once again help from the International Monetary Fund in 2023. Its negotiated $3 billion relief package demanded that the country restore macroeconomic stability. Ghana also showed the failure of the International Monetary Fund's 1996 Heavy Indebted Poor Countries, the HIPC initiative, which was designed to ensure that no poor country face an unmanageable debt burden. Ghana's joined the HIPC, but its debt was being expedited since 2006. Today, it stands at around 105% of gross domestic product, the GDP of that country, placing the country among the most indebted in Africa. Shrinking foreign currency reserves and about 70% of government's revenue devoted to interest payments have combined for an unsustainable situation in the country of Ghana. Ghana was therefore forced to seek once again help from the IMF this year. It negotiated a $30 billion relief package, demand that the country restructured its public debt, as we've just pointed out. Moving forward, inflation, the elimination of fuel and electricity subsidies, rising income tax and also introduction of the new levies on cigarettes, sweet drinks and also mobile money transaction and the COVID-19 recovery contributions surcharge are fueling discontent among the working population and the middle class. To tackle debt sustainability, the government ventured to reduce Ghana's debt to GDP ratio from 105% to 55% by end of 2028, a hefty target. It hopes to meet this seemingly improbable target by boosting revenue, which includes increasing the tax burden and cutting public spending dramatically. The problem of leadership quality is an issue with regards to Ghana in terms of returns. Ghana has long been regarded as an example of a thriving Western-style multi-party democracy. Indeed, since its transition to democracy in the 1990s, the country has featured regular, free and fair elections, freedom of expression, and robust civil society. Unlike many African regimes which specialize in leadership or hegemonic parties, power in Ghana has alternated between the now-ruling New Patriotic Party, the NPP, and the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. The pluralistic civil society and the strong institutions, including a constitution that establishes political rights and civil liberties, are among the pillars of the country's democratic construction, or superstructure if you want to point that out. If you look at Ghana's situation, however, times and times again, democracy proved to be a fragile endeavor. Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, a member of the NPP, has served since 2017, elected on promise of crushing corruption, and he secured a second term in 2020. But the opposition rejected the result, and ensuing violence broke the cycle of nearly 3 decades of electoral stability. Since that time, the government's members have been involved in corruption scandal, including the Sputnik deal, the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines from Russia, and the contracts for sale case, which led to the trial of the chief executive of the Public Procurement Authority. Recently, the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources was ousted and detained after it became known that members of the House staff had stolen more than $1 million in cash she had also stashed in her own bedroom. Looking ahead, this activity for most part is taking place inside the bubble in the country's ruling establishment, and as protests denounce perceived moral decay of the political system, there are signs that in Ghana, as elsewhere on the continent, a deepening discontent has emerged between the agendas of legacy political parties and also aspirations of the generation born and raised after independence. When parties rule as gatekeepers of the political system that is filtering, absorbing, and also responding to citizens' demand, weakens, instability and also disruptions likely follows. Economic turmoil in Ghana after years of record high growth is also attributed to the unending expansion of the public sector, a trend hardly unique to Ghana. The pandemic-related shutdown also have played a role, whereas due to its youthful demographic profile, COVID-19 was not a significant health threat in Ghana. The economic cost of pandemic mitigations effort have been severe. The 2020-2021 disruption is going to have a long-lasting harmful impact on many Ghanaians' life. Looking ahead, Ghana's trail also exposed the failure of the debt burden modernization model in place over recent decades. Despite high growth rates, its economic, like other economics on the continent, has remained structurally dependent on external borrowing. This setup is unsustainable. Alarmingly, in a world where multilateralism is in crisis, reaching agreements with also an increasingly diverse pool of creditors become more challenging. As we close down this episode, let me draw down to what scenarios could happen in the country of Ghana. Presently, the Ghanaian government finds itself between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, with elections scheduled for 2024, it has no incentives to prudent financial management. On the other hand, abandon the IMF program could lead to a financial catastrophe. Against this backdrop, 2 medium to long-term scenarios will emerge in the case of Ghana. As I close down this episode, most likely, the government plays for time. The government will try to avoid meaningful reforms until 2024 balloting, which in any case is going to take place amid crisis, popular discontent. As protesters are already marching on the streets for economic and political change, including the resignation of President Akufo-Addo, the campaign may prove particularly volatile. Looking ahead, however, considering the strength of Ghanaian institutions and that the two main parties have managed to maintain a medium on political social relevance, a bad political disruption is less likely in the short term. Nevertheless, risk will increase over time as the root cause of many of the current problems, the electoral perception of a political and poor leadership, is expected to endure. The prospect for the ruling elite renewal are also poor. poor in the eyes of the nationals. While the country's financial overextensions make structural reforms more onerous, Ghana has a significant competitive advantage when compared to its neighbors, stuck in similar morass if you look at past perspective. First, there is a potential for the three leading sectors of the economy, agriculture, tourism, and mining, to become drivers of sustainable growth. Secondly, Ghana's young and also educated workforce and also population can make a difference, as the country has consistently invested in extending access to secondary schools, vocational training, and university level education over recent years. Additionally, the percentage of young Ghanaians who declared plans to return home after studying abroad is encouragingly very high. Unleashing the potentials of the economy and repairing Ghana's democratic foundation, however, will require sound leadership. That, in turn, looks possible only with a generational change in the political elite. As I close down this episode looking at the second likely scenario in Ghana, Ghana collapse into turmoil. Under this scenario, the multiple tension resulting from a polarized 2024 elections caused a profound social and political disintegration. To an extent, Ghana's internal context today is similar to the situation decades ago, when a young Ghanaian Air Force officer, Jerry Rawlings, from 1947 to 2020 of blessed memory, seized power in the 1979 military coup, headed the military junta until 1992, and eventually led the country's transition to democracy, serving 2 terms as duly elected president until January of 2001. The risk of contagion must also be considered in a region suffering from democratic fatigue and economic dislocations, where coups again takes place with increasingly frequency. Hopefully, Ghana will be able to pick up itself and rearrange itself again as a country that has been known as a giant for democratic issues and stability in the continent of Africa. Hopefully, Ghana's trapped debt situation, crushing at the moment, will not turn extensively volatile, as we are looking at how Ghana can pick up itself to have a clear and peaceful transition election in 2024, and we all shall be monitoring the situation in Ghana. Drop us a comment if you are new to this channel and let us know why Ghana found itself in this situation. We are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. If you are new to this channel, we've made hundreds of videos here. Check them to improve your geopolitical understanding with regards to Africa's interaction with the global community. We are looking forward ahead to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye bye.